Are you looking for the perfect deck that'll have your opponent saying, wait, what just happened? I've got it for you. Hello there, welcome back. My name is Donald, aka the Scruffy Looking Gamer, and I want to start this video off with a warning. This deck is not an easy deck to play. This is not a beginner-friendly deck by any means. If you're new to Lorcana or new to TCGs in general, I would not suggest starting with this deck. But if you're looking for something that is completely outside the box, that challenges you as a player, and is pretty fun to play, then this is a pretty good one for you. We are calling this deck Lantern Control, and this is based around a famous Magic the Gathering deck, also called Lantern Control. And the whole idea of Lantern Control in Magic is both players will play with the top card of their deck revealed, and you're able to manipulate the top of their deck so that they're not getting good draws. They're drawing dead cards, they're drawing lands most of the time so that they have nothing to play. And of course that works great in Magic because they have dead draws like lands. In Lorcana, we don't really have that. I mean, cards are inkable, so pretty much every card in a deck is useful in a way. So while this is the same kind of idea, we're not exactly doing the same method as what the Magic deck is looking to do. And I built this deck specifically for my buddy Logan, who said, Donald, I will play Lorcana with you when I can play Lantern Control. Well, I'm here to tell you, buddy, you can. Well, sort of. So this is all going to revolve around our Lantern. In Magic, the Lantern is what makes them play with the top card of their deck revealed. In Lorcana, we're going to have Merlin's Cottage. Merlin's Cottage location, each player plays with the top of their deck face up. So, same premise. And we do have ways to manipulate the top of their deck. So, we're going to be able to really control kind of what they're getting. If there's just a ginormous bomb on top of their deck that we don't want them to have, we do have ways to get rid of that. And that's going to help slow them down. Our hope is, this is a control deck at heart. Our hope is to just control them out till we can get to the late game and we can just do things that are way more powerful and outpace what they can do. So since we know what's on the top of their deck, we can use cards like A Very Merry Unbirthday. Each opponent puts the top two cards of their deck into their discard. We can get rid of whatever's there. We can use a card like the Mad Hatter's Teapot. This is an item that sets on the field. It's repeatable. Each opponent puts the top of the deck into their discard. These are kind of our ways to get rid of that stuff that's on top. But that's kind of where it ends. It's not a lot. It's not really reliable. So this deck has to have kind of another way to win. And since we are revealing the top card of our library, we're going to use that to our advantage as well. So we're going to use cards like Bruno, where if you can name the top card of your deck, you reveal it. If it's the card you named, you gain 3 lore and put it into your hand. Well, we can name the top card of our deck because it's revealed. So Bruno is just a great way. He's drawing us a card. He's gaining us 3 lore. Great way to take advantage of knowing what the top card of our deck is. Another way that we can take advantage of that is the Sorcerer's Hat. Sorcerer's Hat is kind of the same thing. We don't gain the lore, but if we can name the top card of our deck, then we get to put it in our hand. So it's kind of a pseudo draw a card. And we have other ways that we can kind of know what's on top of our deck. Ursula's Cauldron lets us look at the top 2 cards, put one on top, one on bottom. So even if we don't have our cottage down, we can still know what's on top of our deck. So we can activate the Cauldron before we do Bruno or something like that. So that's kind of our main, I guess, value engine there, our draw engine, to be able to just pick cards up off the top of our deck at will. And it's pretty easy to do. I've played this deck testing a couple times where I was just churning through cards like crazy. So I basically could get whatever I wanted. And because of that, we're really only playing, you'll notice the numbers in here are kind of strange. A lot of our high-end cards are just one-ofs. And that's because we're able to churn through our deck so well. We're able to control what's on top of our deck, moving stuff to the bottom that we don't need. That lets us play a low number of those cards so that we can really not have to worry about getting too many of them, given at the wrong time. And kind of another way to search that stuff up when we need it is this Merlin, which I think is very, I don't know why it's not showing up. I think is a very rated card. Woo! What's going on? All right, let's go back. Here we go. This Merlin, I think, is a kind of an underrated card. I mean, this basically says when you play him, now you have to shift, and we'll get into that in a second. But when you shift him, you can search your deck for any card and put it in your hand. So whatever we need at the time, Merlin goes and gets it for us. Now we have to have a shift target for Merlin for that to happen, and thanks to set 7, we now have this Merlin who also cares about what's on top of our deck. So we can use this in the early game whenever he quests. If you can name the top card of your deck, you put it into your Inkwell face down exerted. So he is ramp to get us into the late game quicker, and he's also our shift target for late game. He's pretty vulnerable, so you really only want to use him when you know he can survive, when you can do something like bouncing back to your hand with Madam M Fox, something like that you can keep him alive so that you are able to shift into him later. Speaking of getting to the late game, we've got to keep our opponent, they're going to be running away with the early game, so we've got to keep them down as much as we can. Got an old Chapter 1 card here, Befuddle. This is great for those aggro decks, playing those 1 and 2 cost cards. You just bounce them back to their hand, so that really takes them off tempo. We talked about the Madam Mim to be able to take out stuff. Same thing with Elsa, 5th Spirit. She is a fantastic card to get rid of stuff. Even if they're not exerting when she comes in, she can exert them and take them out. A new card here in this Kanai. I really like this card. I think it's got good value because if you use it to take stuff out, then and he gets banished in the challenge, he's just gonna come back to your hand. So he's repeatable. He like, unlike Madam M Fox, she'll take something out, but then she's gone if they have at least 3 power on their side. But with him, he's coming back to your hand. So you kind of and you're gaining the lore. That's nothing to scoff at. So you kind of want him to get banished. You want him to take out, to trade with something when you're doing that. So I think this is a pretty good addition into this deck. Then let's talk about our late game stuff, what we're really using to control the board when we can get there. So we talked about we have the Elsa 5th Spirit. We can shift into Elsa Spirit of Winter from set 1. She's a great control card. Keeps up to 2 chosen characters exerted through their next turn. So that's great to slow them down. This new Donald Duck from this set makes them to have 25 lore to win. One of the games I played in testing with this, that came into play. My opponent got to 21, and I had Donald Duck on the field, so they didn't win, and then I was able to win the next turn. So I think this card is really good in this deck to slow them down more. This Genie here, as long as he is exerted, their characters can't ready. That's huge because they literally can't do anything. They'll just they can't quest. They can't use them to sing songs. Like if they play something new that turn, it can't do anything unless it has rush or and then all it can do is challenge. But he's a pretty beefy character at 5/5. This card really helps to slow them down. So these are kind of our main. And Hades. Hades is great to, when you play it, push something back into their ink that you just can't deal with. And something like a Hades, if you need more than 1 copy, just use your Madam Mim, bounce it back to your hand, play it again. Then we kind of have I guess you could say a win con that in Tamatoa. I mean, we're playing a lot of items in this deck, so I kind of included him just as a one of easy win in the late game if you need it. he's kind of hit or miss. Like you can use him, or you could bump it up to 2 Hades. Um, these some of these spots are kind of flexible depending on what you're playing against, what you're seeing, so what you really need in that moment. Um, but I think a one of is okay. Like I said, we have 8 items, so with our teapot, our cauldron, the sorcerer's hat, and then a one of spellbook. It's just a good way to gain a lore when we have an extra ink sitting around. Um, got some draw stuff, friends on the other side. Still a great card from set 1. You can use your Kanai or your Fox to sing it if you need to, if there's nothing for them to do. Let It Go, kind of the same thing. This is really our main removal spell because in the Blurple colors, we don't have a lot to choose from. So we can use this to sing. A lot of our characters in this deck can sing this. So another free spell if we need it. Sailor Azurite Sea, don't have much to say about that. Fantastic card. Draw a card, ink an extra card. Fantastic. Hideaway, a couple of those to push those locations or their lucky dime. If you're playing against a blue deck that uses dime, push that into their ink so they can't get it back. A couple copies of those work good. I didn't talk about Dawson. Dawson is another card that lets us manipulate the top of our deck. So every time you're inking, you can look at the top card of your deck, put it either on the top or bottom. That way, if you need to know what's on top and you don't have your Merlin's Cottage out, Dawson will let you know. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. That's the idea. We want to slow our opponent down, get to the late game, control the board, and then just win by having more value than them. Like I said, this deck is not easy to play. You're going to lose a lot with this deck until you really learn how to play it. It's not a standard play pattern, and it takes a lot of thinking. But if you like that kind of deck, if you like the unusual deck that's not ever going to play the same twice, you're never going to play the same game. Always going to be thinking on your toes, thinking on your feet, and this deck is that. It just does that. Is it a competitive deck? I wouldn't go that far. Are you going to win a big 1K tournament with this? Probably not. I guarantee you, though, you will have fun playing something completely left field and outrageous. Your opponent will have to ask you what most of the cards in this deck do because no one plays half of these cards, and it's just a good time. So if you are looking for something different, something to challenge yourself a little bit, give this deck a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So if you like these videos, please give me a like, give me a subscribe. I'm trying to do at least one video a week of a new deck, bring you something that no one else is bringing you. It's not going to be the top 8 meta decks from this last week. I'm not really you can find that anywhere. I'm trying to bring you something spicy, something different, some budget decks, some recommended decks, fan recommended decks. So let me know what you want to see in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you next time.